So this is the fourth and final story in Rupert's Tales, The Nature of Elements. This one is about the element of earth, and it's called The Sounds of Earth. Rupert the rabbit was sound asleep deep within the earth, dreaming of the warmer days to come and of spring's rebirth. It was winter, when many of his friends took a very long sleep, so most of his fun and the things he liked to do would have to keep. It was dark there deep in the earth, and it was the middle of the night. He knew it was, because during the day he could see a little light. Still, with his long sensitive ears, he knew someone was there. Either they wanted him to hear them, or they didn't care. "Rupert," a small voice called out, "can you hear me? I know you are here. I'm afraid I will need your help, even though it's the cold time of the year." "I'm right here, right in front of you, Grandmother," Rupert softly replied. Here in the ground where he liked to sleep there wasn't much room inside, and Grandmother Spinner, though big for a spider, was still rather small. It wouldn't be nice if he frightened her by being too loud. Not at all. "We need to go north, where a big rock stands all alone, covered in green. It's alone except for one very old tree. Do you know where I mean?" He knew the place past the edge of the forest and a thick grove of trees, with all the elms, oaks, birch, and the cypress with their long, knobby knees. That's where they went, through the meadow or clearing, a kind of brown space, right through the circle where the people often made their sacred space. There was a lot of deep snow everywhere, and it was cold all right. Rupert wondered why they were out in it in the middle of the night. It didn't take too long to get to where there was a very large stone. Though it was winter, it was still covered in green and stood all alone, except for that one very old tree, just as Grandmother had said. In the winter its branches were bare, and it looked like it was dead. Rupert remembered he had been dreaming when Grandmother had come by, and thought the tree was probably dreaming of a warmer springtime sky. But then, as things turned out, he didn't have to wait for very long to find out that's not what the tree was thinking, that he had been wrong. He heard a grumbling, and what he thought might be a grumpy sound. It was coming from under his feet, right through the frozen ground. If he was a skunk or a squirrel, he knew he wouldn't have heard it at all. It was a low, groaning and grinding noise, one that was very small. The moaning made his fur stand straight up, and it gave him a chill. He wished whatever it was would stop, be quiet, and be still. It was terrible, that sound under the ground beneath his feet. "If they don't stop this soon," a voice said, "I'll never get to sleep." "And now you see the problem," Grandmother whispered in his long brown ear. "Our friend Eric the earthworm hasn't slept for several days, so I hear." "It's the cold time of the year," Rupert heard the worm exclaim, "but instead I'm wide awake, and these two are who's to blame. I've tried to explain to them the way things are when it's cold or dry, but they don't hear me say this is when my body slows down inside. They just grumble on as if I wasn't here. It didn't used to be so bad, but it's terrible this year. I think," the worm went on to say, "it has to do with getting older. The tree complains more and more now, ever since the weather turned colder." "Hello, little friend," Rupert said, doing his best to be polite. He might be grouchy too, Rupert thought, in Eric's place. He just might. "Grandmother Spinner is here with me, and said I should come talk to you, to see if there's some way to help, if there is anything I can do. My name is Rupert, and I'm a rabbit, though I know you can't see. Just like snails, worms don't have eyes, so you see everything differently." "And that's the problem right there," Eric said. "Right here and right now. These two see things differently, and I've got to stop them somehow." "And just what do you suppose," Grandmother asked, "the trouble might be? Does the problem lie with the big stone, or is it with the old tree?" There's a problem, all right," Rupert heard a scratchy kind of voice say, "but you are not the one to solve it. That is just not our way. There's no reason he can't help, if that's something he wants to do," Rupert heard another voice say. "I don't mind, so why should you?" "Do you see," Eric asked, "it goes on and on with no end in sight, and they don't care one little bit that it's the middle of the night." "I've never heard a tree talk before," Rupert said, his eyes growing wide. "Well, except for that one time when the young green man was hiding inside." Then he saw her, and it seemed as though the tree had always had a face. It was just a small shifting, as though he'd been standing in the wrong place. The very same thing happened when he looked down at the moss-covered stone, though something about his eyes reminded Rupert of a wise old crone. "Grandmother Spinner!" the voice rumbled in a voice like a growl. "The last time I saw you we had a nice talk with your friend, the owl." Now Rupert understood why Grandmother had asked him to come along. There was a lesson here for him from the lady, if he wasn't wrong. If the spider wasn't with them, he was sure it's safe to say he would not have been able to see their faces at all today. "It's too bad," the tree said, "that your friend isn't here with us tonight. I am very sure she would be able to set everything right." "Since I am here and she is not," Grandmother told them, shaking her head, "maybe you will share your troubles with those of us who are here instead." "Earth is the problem," Eric spoke up, raising his voice into a shout. "Is it a tree or stone that's the best part of Earth? That's what this is all about." "It just sounds silly," the stone rumbled, "when you put it that way." "But he's right," the tree said, "no matter which words we use or say." "Well then, Rupert," Grandmother Spinner turned to him with a wink, "is a tree or a stone the best part of Earth? Tell us what you think." "Earth is one of the elements," he said, "we have talked about before. Air, fire, water, and now earth. That gives us a total of 4. "You're on the right track," Grandmother agreed. "What else do you know?" "Air stands for wisdom and brings us many things we'd like to know. The element of fire means action and making words into deeds. Water," he went on, "is compassion, healing, and helping those in need." "That's very interesting," the stone said, his mouth hardly moving at all. "I've never thought of things that way, at least not that I can recall." "That is why," the tree said, "we talk about the same old thing so much. Your memory may be long, but your ideas are out of touch." "Ha!" the stone disagreed. "If your roots went deeper, then you would see that I am a part of the earth, and it has always been a part of me." "And here we go again," Eric said. "How I wish they would only see. There's nothing quite so stubborn as a stone, except for maybe a tree." "Maybe," Grandmother pointed out, "you were right about something you said. No one wants to be forgotten. We'd like to be remembered instead. Most of us will grow old and pass on, unlike our stone friend. That's the nature of nature. We all come to an end. There are many parts to living each life, death, living, and rebirth. Each of these," she told them, "are a part of the element of earth. There are ways to honor the body once your spirit leaves its host, but the bones and flesh will after some time turn to earth for most." "Strength," Rupert said, thinking hard, "is something that reminds me of the earth. Also abundance, especially during spring and nature's rebirth." "Yes," the tree agreed. "Abundance means having plenty and treasure. Trees like me offer so much more than stones do by any measure." "But trees can be uprooted, blown over, and can sometimes even die," Eric pointed out, even with deep roots and leaves reaching to the sky." "There is also wisdom in this element," Grandmother put in. "Earth moves quite slowly, not like fire, water, or even the wind. As time goes on and passes, Earth remains to see many things change. Since it stands so still, there is much to learn as things are rearranged. The sun and moon leave their marks on the surface and in the dirt. Nature isn't something that goes unchanged and cannot be hurt." "Well, I think you're forgetting something," Eric said, "if you want to know. No matter if you're a tree or a stone, worms are the ones down below. I am the one who travels back and forth, making tunnels in the ground. We bring air and water through the dirt so trees stay wet, but they don't drown. And you," Eric turned to the stone, "I think you like the sun and air. If not for all our digging, you would still be in the dark down there." Rupert grinned, then felt his smile grow as he laughed a little bit. "I think you can all see our little friend has got the right of it." "Well, no," the stone said, then made a strange sound that might have been a laugh. "Yes, I think so too," said the tree. "It seems our troubles are now past." "Thank you," the worm told Rupert, "for coming here to help us tonight, and for sharing your own wisdom. It just might help," he said. "It might." Grandmother crawled up Rupert's back then and said, "Go now and get some sleep. Whatever other troubles they may dig up, we'll just have to keep." As Rupert and Grandmother Spinner walked slowly away from their friends, he heard a warm voice say, "Learning about the elements never ends." Then he felt a hand upon his head as it gently rubbed his long ears. He felt the cool air upon his face and the water in his glad tears. When the lady knelt and picked him up, He knew by the warmth in his heart that in his life the elements would always play an important part. He felt her heartbeat echoing his own, and then thought of Earth once more. In her arms he knew he was safe and whole, no matter which face she wore. And that's the end.